Welcome. Are you comfortable? Just having a good stretch myself before I get into this because day. Are you comfortable? Get a drink, everything you might need, and let's settle in. So I felt drawn to speak to you about my relationship with my spirit guides today. So over the last few years or so, I've become closer with my spirit guides, and the other day I was thinking about it and I was like, I'm friends. I've got pals. I'm friends with my spirit guides. And I would never, in an earlier part of my life, have even thought about that or even known what they were or if that was possible or anything like that. And having a little bit of a mental health background in my work, I probably would have thought about it as how a psychiatrist would come from the point of view that there would possibly be a mental health diagnosis if you are in a kind of a dialogue, a communication with information in your head, kind of like some psychiatrists might call that, might take the criteria for something like schizophrenia, but if you are having any worries like that, I want to reassure you that of course it could be the case, but it possibly could just be that you are hearing information from your own spirit guides. And I'll go through, like, stick around for the whole video, because at some point it will become clear. I will explain as much as I can the feeling of speaking with your spirit guides and how that feels. But I'm just going to go back to the beginning a bit on my journey of how I accidentally really got in touch with my spirit guides. It was like they were like around, and they were like making it clear, hello, like, you need to listen to us, we are trying to help you out, and let's get on a good road. And yeah, my spirit guides were involved in some life changes that I've made in the last few years, and of course a lot of things have changed because we're in early 2023, and if you think of the last 3 years globally, how much has changed, I think things would have changed anyway. But being able to have support from my spirit guides has improved lots of ways that I might have dealt with things. Sorry, a little tickle because they have a little bit of spring hay fever. So I think the earliest that I sort of had a spirit guide present themselves to me, or kind of forcibly come into my life, I'm thinking it was about 2018 or 2019, so let's say it's about 4 years ago, and it was before the kind of bigger life changes that have been happening globally, and it was only shortly after my Saturn return, which is around from age 29 and a half to 31-ish, is about your Saturn return. And if you have no idea if I'm speaking, if it sounds like I'm speaking another language, if you don't know what that is, a Saturn return happens every 29 and a half years in everyone's life, and it's just where the point where Saturn was at your birth. It takes a 29 and a half year revolution, it comes back to the same place, and that's when it allows you to completely give your life a full zhuzh, unless everything was perfect to begin with, which, great if it is, doesn't happen with many people, but it's an opportunity to change everything up. And I say opportunity, but it's a bit like Saturn puts a lot of things in your path, so you have to either take that, like this on your path, or kind of climb over it like a boulder, and it makes life harder if you resist it. So you can have a lot of changes in that time. I had a career change, a few things kind of left my life and joined, a bit like how it has done over the last few years. Lots of things have changed, but my Saturn return was definitely a starting point for a lot of things. It was when I left working in design and moving into mental health at that point. Okay, so a little background on that. And so yeah, a good few years ago, and I thought I had quite a good life, and quite a good plan and quite a good control of it, and I liked a lot of things in my life, and there were maybe some things that weren't perfect, but I accepted because I felt that's a part of our world. That's just what I'm going to need to accept in order to just, live around here. So, yeah, but overall, I was pretty cool with what was going on in my life. And it was in the middle of the night, and I was having a dream initially. I don't remember the dream that fully, but there was a man in the dream who was trying to talk to me, and I was very resistant to whatever tips or advice this person had in that dream. It was a long time ago, hard to remember, but the dream crossed over, and this is when I became aware of, like, okay, this is a being who's not, it's not just like a dream, it's like a real, I'm gonna say person, but he wasn't physical, but this is a spirit guide that I'm explaining to you, but at the time I had not heard of that, and I did not have a word for what this person being was. So the person crossed over, and in my physical waking life, he was sat in an armchair at the sort of bottom corner of my bed in my room, and I was facing away asleep in the dream, and I went to turn over, open my eyes, saw him there in the chair, and the summary of everything that was just happening in that dream, he just said to me, "What are you doing?" And I saw him and I went, "I'll deal with you later," and I carried on, rolled over, I went to sleep. So in my sleep state, it's about 4 a.m. I wasn't scared of him, and I didn't think about anything. I just spoke to him. I was like, "Oh, I'll deal with you later." Like, I have enough things to deal with in my life, was like how my brain was going. You can join the queue, yeah, that was, so it just felt completely natural, that short interaction in my sleep, but I was awake for that little bit. And how he, just for a bit more clarification, how he appeared in the chair. He had a physical form, but it was more like there was a knowing in me that he wasn't physically there. Like, I knew that if I went over, my hand would go through him, but visually, like, he looked fully formed. It was just I knew that there wouldn't be a touch if I was over there. And how he spoke, I heard his voice, but his physical body lips didn't move. So I didn't see him say the words like that. He said the words and they came here, well, through the third eye, but you kind of feel it in your head. Kind of feel is the word, but it's like you're a receiver it's not like you're using your physical ears, it's like an inner ear, a receiver in that level. If you haven't had this experience, it might be quite hard to follow, but if you've had it, then you know what I mean. It's called clairaudience, when you can hear inside of your head instead of with your physical ears. So I clairaudiently heard him say, "What are you doing?" And then, so that was about 4 a.m, and a few hours after that, I woke up and was like, oh, and then I had my day head, my day head was thinking about it in a very conscious way, and I wasn't spooked at all, and then by that point, I was a little spooked. What was that? And a little confused, and I wasn't sure what to make of it or who to speak with about it, and felt a little strange. And that's partly why I'm making this video now. If you're having something like this, like, where can you go to refer to? Where did this person come from? So yeah, this happens. And my spirit guide put an awful lot of energy into appearing to me, I know this now, because it was time that he was like, you've gone so far down this path that is fine but not great, and you're going against basically your life purpose and against your, not all of my life purposes, because just being here and providing who I am as an individual is part of a life purpose that each of us have. Just our presence here is one of our life purposes, and you can't go against that. Just you're here, you're doing it. But there are other things that before you're incarnate here, your soul's like, okay, I'm going to do this. It makes a bucket list, okay? And I wasn't ticking off any of my bucket lists, my soul's bucket list. I was ticking off human bucket list, but not soul's bucket list. So spirit guides had to come in and intervene. And this person came through, and I felt intuitively his name. I knew that he wasn't a relative. We didn't have any physical resemblance. But he had a depth in him, a lot of wisdom that I just felt I respected, and like he had a kind of a commonality with me, a soul bond with me, but not from this life, but from somewhere that I don't know. And that helped me feel like I could just chat with him like I would say a best friend or something. And that was the feeling of the spirit guide. It's like if it's someone who is menacing, then that's not a spirit guide, and that's something that you want to cleanse out of your life. There's my thingies here. I have Palo Santo, I nearly forgot the name, which cleanses negative energies. If you just you light it, let it smoke and smudge around whatever spaces you want to clean around your home, around your body. And it's worth doing it if you feel scared, basically, and or anything negative. If you feel anything negative, and you can still do it if you think all of the energies around you are positive, because Palo Santo shouldn't get rid of positive energies, just the negative. So it's just like it's foolproof. You can do it. And I also use, you can see my incense here. I've got a few. There's a clary sage one that's quite a nice, it's calming, but sage is also cleansing. Rosemary is also cleansing. It depends where you are in the world. You might be able to just forage for certain things that are herbs and things that are helpful for cleansing, or you can buy them online even if you don't have kind of like a spiritual shop around. You'll find whatever works for you, and maybe do a bit more googling, because I'm not massively clued up on cleansing. So if you want to search other YouTubers on that, I might be better at this later in life and talk about it on the channel. But so cleanse whatever's negative, but if it feels okay, if you feel a connection with a person who's either visually presenting themselves to you, you're hearing, you're feeling the presence of, then it could be one of your spirit guides. So where did I go from there? I haven't actually seen that person present himself in a room again since then, and I tend not to actually see a form with my guides, but I can feel presences, and it's like, again, it's not with physical senses, so it's not with my physical eyes or physical ears, or I would say physical heart, but no, you don't really sense with a physical heart, but I feel presences. And usually the first thing I'm aware of is I take a knowledge in that I know hasn't come from my brain. Like, my brain didn't already know any of this, it just comes to me, which I think is called claircognizance. So the knowledge comes into your brain, and you might hear the words or just have a knowing of the words. For me, it's kind of, it can be either. So I might just have a knowing of something, or I might hear the words repeating until I notice that someone is saying a repeating word or phrase to me, and I'm like, oh, because it often happens at night for me, because when you're busy, there's no space for them to talk with you. If you do get to pause to meditate, you'll have more chance of them giving you a message and speaking with you. But other than meditation time, other times your brain is quiet. It would be as you're falling asleep or waking up, and it's when you're in there's a few different brain states. There's delta and theta, when you're in either coming into rest or into deep sleep, and either of those brain states you can hear your guides. But when you're very active and you're doing things, you're at work or you're doing an activity that takes a lot of your attention, you'd be in alpha brainwaves, and it would be very difficult to hear anything from your guides. So taking space and a bit of peace and a bit of a break, a bit of a rest, will allow those voices to come in. So yeah, I started hearing more messages in the night, and without trying to connect in with them. And at some point not long after that, I came across the concept of spirit guides, which I actually think was probably through YouTubers first, before I discovered that I had friends who knew things, or who had similar experiences. Just because people tend to be quiet about this. If you don't talk about it, they don't talk about it. But when it sort of effervesces into conversation without you planning on it, and it goes out there, and then they go, oh, you know about this, oh, I know about this, and then I've discovered, like I have with other things, like when I came out as a vegan, I discovered I had loads of friends who were vegans and things like that. So yeah, if you talk about it, you'll find amongst your crowd who already knows. But I think for me, my first awareness was through YouTubers, and I think at that time it was probably most likely Christina Lopes, who'd done a lot of videos on what spiritual awakening is like, Nikki Sutton, whose channel is Spiritual Awakening, and Lee Harris Energy, who he channels his guides as his main job. He does music and other things. He was originally famous for his music. But yeah, so there's those three were probably the ones that suddenly were like bing, bing, bing into my life through YouTube, and provided me with information that made me feel like I'm starting to understand this more and accept this more and know where this is coming from, so that I could embrace it more and spend more time with them and literally ask them things, and not just wait for them to deliver something that they thought was prominent I should know. So yeah, I started meditating, which I don't actually do so much now. I don't think I have as much call for it, but or I focus on other things in my life, which might not necessarily be a good thing, but it's what happens. But yeah, meditating for a bit helped me, and I would start to see colours and forms and go into other lives, other timelines or other past lives, which I'll talk about in a separate video. And yeah, just having the space to hear and have non-physical experiences, that helped my connection with my guides. But what I would say was one of the bigger turning points with having connection with my guides was, it was only a couple of years ago now, and I decided, because I was getting into cartomancy, which is it's reading of cards, so you'll be aware of maybe tarot and oracle cards and any kind of card. I mean, you can read anything. You can even take a book, especially picture books. I don't think there are pictures in here, but you can take a book and ask a question, spin to a page, and then the first word that you see there could be your answer. So that's not even cards, but it's something. I just turned this to a page on the herb basil. I didn't ask anything, but I might have a look at what Basil provides me later, or but I'm only partway through that book, but it's so good, so good. I'm enjoying learning about aromatherapy at the moment as a side note. So I was getting into cartomancy, and I decided, because I was getting really good tips on, so at the beginning of my day I was just saying a quick question to my guides, and they were just giving me this really loving, caring advice and reassuring advice on what I was doing and what I needed to do or not do, and these sorts of things. Like, sometimes on the morning they would say, you don't need to do anything, you're just doing a great job, there's nothing like else you need to do, and great. And then there were other times they were like, just take a rest, just have a rest, or like write out what you're feeling, or something like that. Or another one that came up really frequently was share your story, which has led me to producing something I can share with you guys here, which I was too shy to do before they encouraged me for literally like 100 days in a row, before I started doing anything like this. I was never an online person in any regard, didn't like it. I'm so introverted naturally. Anyway, and their advice was so good, I decided to ask them to work with them to get a whole set of messages. And I have talked about this briefly in other videos, but just for the relevance of this, I made these cards. So I just got loads of card from just a really cheap art shop. If you're in the UK, it's called The Works. I just got a load of cheap card, and I painted all the card like this, just because I love these colours. I love pink and blue, and you could have a plain back if you want, or just write my cards or anything, just so that you know that that's the back, or like the outer kind of thing. And then on the other side are messages. This one says, welcome in the light of the universal love. That's a lovely one. So together with, I think there's about 90 of these, together with my guides, I actually went through and wrote all of these, and some of them were kind of, I knew I wanted, and I brought them from my head, my heart. But some, like, once I'd gotten down like the bulk of the ones I really wanted, there was like fewer than 20 maybe, all the rest my guides helped me fill. Come on, one, take a break. Speak honestly, that really helped me with getting my true voice, as did sing. So yeah, there's loads, and they were great, and I did it all in one go, all these messages, and it actually took me late into the night in the end. Well, not late, but a bit into the night, so that I could get it all done in one go. And they were great. They just let me take in more words, and they've all been really helpful. There's just been a couple where I've edited them a bit later on. So the ones I've edited, I don't know what this said before, but you see it's got this background. I basically used water, so basically these pens that I used are water based, so it means that I can rinse them off with water, but then they make this like watercolour thing, you can't rinse them off fully. So I was able to rinse off old messages and then put a new one on. So if there was something that had kind of become irrelevant to my life and then I had a new message, that's what I was doing basically. That's what I'm trying to say to you. So I created these with my guides, and then on a morning I would either ask them a question and then write down what came in, and it could be really brief or sometimes a whole paragraph, or if I didn't want to spend too much time on it, I didn't want to like thoroughly write, I would ask my question, shuffle these cards and see what happened. So I would just try to shuffle them for you, give them a little bit of a shuffle and ask, what does, I would ask, what do my spirit guides want me to know today? Something like that. You can, if you do something like this yourself to build your relationship with your guides, you can ask whatever you want. And then I would just shuffle and see what came out, and it's decided to say consult your birth chart. So that might be like a life purpose type of thing. So if you look at your birth chart, if you're into astrology, there is so much in that, and it's just a blueprint from your birth, and then as time goes by, loads and loads of layers of other things, you know, happen to you and build up you. So you aren't you when you were born, but that's like the blueprint you were born with. So there's bits in there of how to learn what might be supportive for you in your life and things like that. Anyway, it's a good tip from anyone's spirit guides. Yeah, but you don't necessarily have to make a set of cards with your guides. For me, it was a great connection practice with them and a bit of a bonding experience. But you can use any cards, tarot or otherwise. I don't have many cards. I just have here travel set of tarot, really small, light, and I can take that with me to friends' houses without thinking, oh, I've got to carry a load of stuff. So I love my travel set, but that's all I have is these and that for me is enough to connect in with my guides or my soul, my higher self, ancestors, whoever. Your ancestors often are in your spirit guide team. You may have hundreds of spirit guides and you may not hear all of them or have met all of them, but they'll be working behind the scenes to align things for you, like things that you're worried about or you don't even know about that might be coming. They're helping behind the scenes realign things to try to have your better good. And sometimes that might be tough life lessons. It can be tough love. It might be them taking away something you think you want but you didn't really, and all these kind of forms of tough love, but they're there to help you overall. And you can call on them anytime, and even if you are not particularly naturally adept in clairaudience or anything like that, if you use a reader of some sort, like a tarot reader, an energy reader, a psychic channeler, whoever, they can help connect you to your spirit guides. Just always only take what resonates, because I think there are some readers out there who aren't necessarily doing it, aren't always good, because anyone can say that, right? There's no regulatory body of like this person is official, you know. There's nothing like that in psychic work or channeling work at the moment. So you know, you can't go to well, at least in the UK, I'm assuming it's probably global. I actually don't know, but you can't go to a registered body and ask for a registered tarot reader at the moment who is official. But and also just within that, different readers resonate with different people. So I know readers who my friends love and I don't get much from it. I don't feel like they're the right reader for me. But then there are others that I really resonate with, and they are like, didn't feel that reading. So it's like there'll be different people who you'll resonate with more than others, but they can bring through, if they are bringing through a message you're resonating with, then they can bring through your spirit guides, your ancestors, whoever you do want to foster more of a connection with. But bear in mind, if you do not do that, the connection is still there. They're still working for you. They're your team, and they've got your back, and you don't have to chat with them or anything like that. But if you feel drawn and you have, you know, a little bit of time and energy on a morning or some point maybe just like once a month even, if you feel drawn, I would advocate for you having a little more connection with your guides. I find it's been really supportive for me. And especially if you find that if you feel like you're in a point in your life where you would benefit from support, but you don't have much going on, like available in your physical life, like maybe your family's really busy or you're not in contact with them, your close friends, they're all like all over the world, or they have such busy jobs or kids and families or whatever's keeping them busy, and maybe just all your loved ones aren't necessarily massively available to you, but maybe you're not drawn to clubs or religions, maybe you're very introverted like me. All of that is fine. It just means that there's probably even more of an opportunity for you to connect in with your spirit guides rather than in the outside world, and more in with your own intuition, your own intuitive self, your own higher self, your intuition, your guide team, and take those benefits. They're there. They're an option. If you feel drawn to, and if you're watching this video, you might do, or you might just be wondering what's happening to you because you have that connection. And if you already have the connection, feel free to foster it, but you also, again, you don't have to, because they'll be there, and you don't have to do anything for them. You don't have to love them or care for them like you might your family. They're just always there, and they've got your back, so they're never going to get fed up with you or want a break or anything like that. They're always there, and they don't need to take breaks because they're not physical. They're timeless beings, always available. And it doesn't matter where you are, they can be present with you. Not physically necessarily, but their energy, their non-physical presence can be with you whenever, wherever. And that availability will always be there no matter how much or not you foster the relationship. I just found for me that once I had developed this relationship, it enriched my life to a greater depth, and because of my previous life experiences, I had so much to work on for my own, even survival. I think by the point that I had the build up up to my 30s, it wasn't just for like, I didn't have just like a bit of healing. I had so much healing in order to keep going in my life. So it really enriched my life to have that support and to feel it and know that I was, I do all the work, but I had their support, and I could check in with them and feel closer to my own my own soul team kind of thing. So yeah, I really advocate for it. And for many years now, I've been in touch with family members that haven't been conceived yet. So not ancestors, but the forecestors or something, but whatever. Not in my past family line, but in my future family line. And that for me has been a really valuable connection to have as well. And when I speak with other people, it doesn't seem that common. I don't know why, but I have that connection. People seem to be more attached to their ancestors, and yes, we do learn from our ancestors, and they've got all this knowledge. It's great, but the people who are our kids and their kids, and so on, that are coming, wow, they're incredible beings. They're really, they're ahead of me, and they are amazing to feel the presence of. And I think I'm very lucky because I don't hear many people having that experience, but I hope that you can, or you do, if you want it. And yeah, so I don't have any children, not human children. I have cat children, but I don't have human children of my own. But the fact that I'm connected to kids going down the line, but they're not necessarily kids when I'm connected to them. You know what I mean? I guess there'll be some sort of descendants at some point, whether it's from me or my brother. We're a 2-child family, or cousins, and yeah, there'll be a whole line at some point that have connected me into them. So they don't have to exist right now. It's just that because there will be a line of physical connections of existence, that means that I can already be connected and have them in my spirit guides at the moment already. And that also goes for people who weren't born but were connected here. So that sounds a little vague. So what I mean with that is, if there's been someone in your line who was pregnant but the baby wasn't born alive, so if you've had miscarriage, termination, stillbirth, anything, that whatever label you want to call it, but something under that category, you're someone in your family, that soul has become connected to you, and it can be in your spirit team as well. And I had a sister who wasn't born, or wasn't born alive a long time ago, and she's in my team, and she's, bless her, she's a very really soft, really soft, gentle, and kind of a weak soul. So she wouldn't have had the power to kind of come into earth and exist here, but the fact that she had a connection to our line means that she can now be on our team, and she's really beautiful, gentle feeling to be around. And I think when I was a little kid, if I had have had her as a younger sister, it probably wouldn't have gone that well. Poor thing. Between me and my kind of overbearing parents, she probably would have been bullied and had quite a miserable time. Just because that was how I was raised, and there was a lot of aggression around when I was little, and big personalities throwing themselves around, a bit of narcissism, aggression, shouting, bullying, all of that was around me, and I shed all that as I've grown, but at that time it wouldn't have been nice for her, so I can see why she wanted to connect in but not come through fully, so she didn't have any earth days as a physical being here. And I fully respect her soul's decision to do that. I think it was very clever, and I'm sensitive as well. I'm not as soft and sensitive as her, but I am sensitive, and it can be difficult here for me. Sometimes I feel like in the past I have felt stretched right up into my literal end capacity on earth, and for her that would have been hard. So yeah, I respect her decision, and I love that we have this connection, but because she is so soft, her energy feels quite, it kind of like very slowly, quietly drifts in, has a brief connection, and very quietly sort of drifts out again. It's like a breeze you almost don't feel when you connect in with her. And I love that about her, but I don't connect in with her very often. I think sometimes I miss her, like, because she's not like a strong presence. Some of my guides are like, I'm here, and they'll have a more forward and like effective. They'll affect me more. Like the communication will be stronger. So yeah, they're all different, and I love that. I love that there's all different personalities in there, and they're all there for kind of different things. And my sister's softness has been really supportive in the last few years, because I've needed to soften and slow down and relax more myself. I was never taught to relax in my life. I had to learn of my own accord eventually, because I learned how I had to learn. And my team was fantastic, been supporting me through burnout through and out and into things that I'm now trying and supporting me in staying that way and not falling back into patterns that led me into the burnout in the first place. So I've covered descendants a bit and family members that may not have had a physical presence here, and ancestors who've had a physical presence here but you're connected with. You didn't have to have met them, obviously. I didn't meet all my grandparents because I was born later than they were around, but I can feel them and they're great. And but yeah, it goes further back, and there's all these different family members which I've now covered, but there are spirit guides who are just assigned to you from somewhere else. Like they've not been connected to you in this life on Earth, but they're connected to you in some other form. And this is the sort of thing I understand less, but they're present. So I've gone through different tools of communication and who there might be. I think if you do want to foster your communication with your team more, it is just coming into stillness and listening more, but you might find different ways of communication than I have. Like I have a friend who knows when some of their guides are around because they feel a gentle stroke or touch on their shoulder. Some people see a sign that means something. Like I've heard white feathers are common, and especially if there aren't birds around and you see a white feather, it's a bird just flew past. I love synchronicities like that. Oh yeah, so synchronicities, that's another one. So if you see repeating numbers or signs again and again, that can be your guides giving you a sign, like this is that thing, this is that thing. Like, so every time I'm just going to be very general, every time you eat a satsuma, you see the number 2 repeating or something, and that's a sign that it's a good thing you're eating satsumas or whatever. But you'll notice the patterns, and so if you keep seeing repeated numbers, or maybe a certain animal, or shapes or signs or patterns in some way, if you take note, so if you've seen it a few times, go, okay, so that's becoming a pattern. Take note of what you were doing or seeing or hearing at that time, and then look for it again. So the next time, so if you saw 222 and something was happening, when you see 222 again, like stop, listen, what are you doing? What can you hear? What's happening? And then if you see 222 again, ask again, like, oh, what am I doing? What am I seeing? And you might start to see a pattern, and your team might be encouraging you to look at a certain thing. Or the thing is, you've got to read it yourself, and I can't help with that necessarily, even if I had your specifics. You use your intuition a bit with that. Yeah, that's another way of them communicating. Another one I have is some of my guides and ancestors, when they're present, I can smell a certain smell. There's a few men in my team that when they're around, I smell pipe smoke, or like fire smoke. I have a little bit in a different incarnation. I was Native American, and I have a bit of a connection down that line, and so I have some Native American guides. I think a lot of people do, because it was such a spiritual life that that when they were on Earth they lived, that the spirituality was such a purpose for them in their physical and non-physical lives. I think there's a lot of beings that have been in that state that are guides, and you might have a Native American guide, and it does, when I speak to other people, everyone seems to to have a Native American guide, so I don't know if it's the same one. Some people believe in kind of like deities or things like that, and it's like a commonality in people's guides, because it's like a known deity that's serves a lot of people, or a known angel or archangel. I don't follow that much. There are, if you want to know about that, I would go to a different YouTuber to talk about deities or angels. But for a lot of people, that's something that they connect in with them, and they follow guidance from them. So, but for me, I'm happy with my own team. Like, I am covered. So I'm more than happy with that. And yeah, I think that's probably it. But yeah, so pipe smoke, but you might smell something different. So perfume, or if someone that you might have known them in this life and they had a favourite flower perhaps, and you could smell that flower, that might be that they're present at that time. And they don't necessarily have to be your spirit guides. You might just have friends or family who've passed over who are letting you know they're around and saying hi, but they might not be necessarily spirit guide level. They might just be like, hey, hi, I'm here just supporting you in some kind of way, and hanging out. But they often do become part of your team as well. And I think we collect, this is a theory, I think we collect our spirit guides from all different lives and incarnations and take them through with us. And in this life, I believe I'm still to potentially collect more, as well as the ones that have already supported me a lot. My apologies for the pinging. And I think it's like, yeah, but it is timeless as well. So even though like I haven't had kids yet, and I have my descendants in my team, things like that are possible, because time is a physical thing on Earth. It's not like in the non-physical, no one's ruled by time. It's just infinite. And I'll talk in another video about my experiences of the infinite non-physical. I probably brought it up a little bit in passing already in other videos, which you're welcome to look through, browse through. Yeah, but I think that's probably it. I think it would be good though if you have any questions, and then if I've realised there's something I haven't covered, if you have a question that you're happy to share publicly, to pop it in the comments, and I'll see if I can answer. And if I can't answer, I might know another YouTuber or someone present in the world online who might know and find it for you, or just, do your own searching about. Sometimes though, you think you're putting in the right keywords and the right things don't seem to come up. So if I do happen to just know something that I can share with you, I will, or write my own response. Yeah, and if there's something related to this, like it prompts further questions that are not directly this but related, feel free to ask as well. I can always attempt to make videos on that. I'll only share what I already know though. I won't try and make up anything. So if you ask something I don't know, I'll just be honest and say I don't have an experience in that yet, because I do like to have my own experience, so I can authentically speak from the heart rather than doing research and telling you something secondhand. I don't really want to do that. I want to just speak from my experience. So yeah. Oh, and it might be nice just to say examples of messages my guides have told me. They can be anything from big messages like, what are you doing with your life? Like that guy that came through, to smaller things like the first time I ever heard of my favourite skincare brand. It's a little expensive, so I don't have like, all my skincare isn't that brand because of my budget at the moment, although it might change. But it's one of my favourite skincare brands. Is Dr. Oshka, and I'd never heard of them before, and my guides kept telling me to look up Dr. Oshka, and I was like, who is Dr. Oshka? Who is that guy? I didn't know it's a skincare brand. And then when I looked it up, I was like, oh, you're trying to help me with my skin. I see. And just my general health. And I know my skin doesn't look fantastic at the moment. I've just had a breakout. It's a hormonal one. But it is so much better than it was. I had such terrible quality skin, such terrible quality, and they have supported me, my guides, in my skincare, which is lovely of them. And now I don't put chemicals on my skin, and I use things which have great natural organic origins, and put vitamins and great things into my skin, because your skin is the biggest organ of your body, and it takes in whatever's around it. So every time you use things with plastics in, you're putting the microplastics into your skin. I mean, I know we have microplastics in our drinking water these days because that's what we've done to the planet, but if you can avoid even more, then that's probably for the best. Our poor planet, I'm hoping we're going to get on top of that. I feel like our generation has to do it, or it's not going to, we're the turnaround point, and it's happening. As I speak, I think it's been Earth Day earlier this week, and it's Fashion Revolution Week, something like that, which is very much about not polluting the planet, as well as caring for the people who make our clothes and animals who are exploited in clothes. But yeah, Fashion Revolution Week is a lot to do with environment and not blatantly destroying Mother Earth. So it's good. We're turning it around, but at the moment there's all sorts going on that it's very hard to avoid in terms of microplastics in our drinking water. I think the only way around is distillation, and I don't think anyone would distill all the water that they're going to wash in as well. So your skin's still taking microplastics in when you wash with your water, and when you go swimming and whatever, take the chemicals in. And yeah, it's a mess, but I believe we will have to sort it. And especially as it's like an epidemic with the diseases we have at the moment, the dis-ease of cancer and things. It's because we've destroyed the planet and all the microplastics we're taking in and all these things. I know there's genetic cancers and there's other forms, and there's a whole huge category of unwellness that I am not trained in and I don't understand. But poisoning the planet is not helping us be well, and it's not helping the planet be well, or anyone who relies on the planet, including humanity. So it is worth. Yeah, I've gone on a slight tangent, but my guides are very supportive with me on this, and they give me names and sentences of things to search for and do that provide me a better quality of life, and that they help in my healing and my long-term development and growth. And it might seem like telling me a skincare brand is a really minimal, like maybe not very helpful thing, but it's been very helpful for me. And of course I get things from them anywhere in between all of those things. Another good one they do is they give me names that when I look them up, they're authors and they've written very useful books that I've then read, or they've like supported me in some way. Like I've on and off thought about being a writer. I'm not writing at this moment, so don't get excited. I'm not publishing anything anytime soon, but I might go into that a bit more. I've attempted it a little bit, and if they give me a name of a writer who maybe writes on like fairly related topics to what I would like to write about, and it shows me how successful they are, then that has been helpful. But yeah, they point me in different directions at different times depending on if they see me sort of drifting off this way and they're like, oh, she needs a prompt because she's meant to be going that way, then that's when it comes, and they're really good at spotting it and helping me with that. So yeah, I would really love to support you in fostering your relationship with your guides if that is what resonates with you. But if you're not here for that and you're just interested in like, how do some other people live who are different from me, then I hope I provided you with something that is interesting, entertaining at least, and gives you an insight. Oh, my cat's sneezing, bless you. Pollen about. Oh, so cute. And yeah, but I hope I provided you with some insight into the world outside of yourself. If you were curious to know, which you must be if you've gotten to this point in this video. I'm coming up to 55 minutes now, so I'm going to wrap up. And at the time I'm filming, we're about to go into the May bank holiday weekend. Oh, amazing, 3-day weekend. So I hope if you have time off that you enjoy that and you have a beautiful holiday. And if you have a little extra time than usual, maybe you could talk to your guides, you could ask them a question, and you could start writing and see what comes out, or just listen or look for signs and or sniff out for smells or or whatever your personal strength is of your non-physical senses, and see what connections you can make. Yeah, and I believe if it's time to have that connection and you really want it, it will turn up in some form, and just be open, and it should come. And if you're already in touch with your guides and you're just chilling here and being like, yeah, I'm like this person, I'm like Ankat, then yeah, have a great long weekend with your guides. Hope you all have fun. And say thank you to them for everything that they're doing. I need to thank mine more frequently. I do remember sometimes, but I'm better at thanking physical beings, I would say. So yeah, bad habit maybe of leaving them out, but yeah. So you take care, have a lovely long weekend, and I'm not sure when I'm doing the next video, but I will keep thinking about or feeling through what would feel good, and I'll put out some more stuff soon. I guess the algorithm likes weekly, but it may not be. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your week and your bank holiday Monday, and if you're not watching live, whatever's going on, have a great time with the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll see you in another video if you'd like. If you're like, whoa, what is this person talking about? This is interesting. Feel free to subscribe. But of course, it's up to you. The option is always there at whatever time you find yourself here. Interactions in the comments, completely welcome. Would love to hear feedback or answer questions or anything that you feel drawn to. But otherwise, I will just see you another time. So take care and goodbye.